Welcome back to the Hacklab Podcast Safety Leadership Series, where we speak with industry leaders shaping safer and more resilient workplaces. Today's topic is process safety beyond compliance, preventing major industrial incidents. Joining me today is Mr. Sandeep Mandot, Global EHS Head at Sudarshan Chemical Industries Ltd. He brings nearly 3 decades of experience across EHS, sustainability, process safety, chemical safety, emergency management, audits, compliance, ZLD, responsible care, and digitalization. He has also held senior EHS leadership positions at many other companies. Sir, welcome to the show. And can you share a bit about your professional journey so far?
Yeah, thank you, Amber. Thank you very much for your kind information, kind introduction to me. And it's really a pleasure to be part of this particular process safety leadership series of yours, to be part of this Hack Lab in this podcast. Just to introduce myself, over the last 3 decades, I have had an opportunity to work with many specialty chemical industries, agrochemical industries, and all. Major ones being, PI Industries, Naveen Fluorine International Limited, and currently I'm heading EHS globally for Sudarshan Chemicals Industries Limited.
Mhm.
This experience of mine basically has reinforced a belief, like process safety basically is not just about the systems, standards, or the compliances. Actually, it is process safety is actually about fundamentally about the leadership. It is about the commitment of the leadership, culture, and it is about the objective of protecting people. Yeah. So definitely, I'm looking forward to sharing some of my experiences that I have gone through, the experiences, the lessons learned, and accordingly, I would like to share a lot of perspectives. And I hope that this discussion that we would be having would especially be helpful for the EHS professionals, plant leaders, and many safety practitioners. Yeah. So thank you for having me, and we can now begin. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. So, process safety is often seen as a compliance requirement. In your view, what does process safety beyond compliance really mean in day to day plant operations?
Yeah. So I often, when it comes to process safety beyond compliance, I often say that, when you are to answer the question to the compliance, it is basically the ask is, have we met the regulatory requirements? But when it comes to the process safety, more important ask, more important question is that process safety is actually answering the question, have we actually reduced the risk? Yeah. So process safety, in my opinion, is a risk-based approach, and it's not just the compliance-based approach.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not just about the regulation that we are talking, because regulations establish minimum expectations.
Mhm.
Yeah. But every plant has its own unique hazards. Yeah. Every operation has the unique hazards which is there for the organization to tackle with. And this is where they have to go beyond those minimums. Yeah. So in a day-to-day operation, when it comes and to process safety, it means that operations do not ignore the recurring alarms that are coming just because nothing happened to them in the past.
Mhm.
It actually means, like, maintenance team, if they are there, they don't just accept the temporary repairs as the permanent solutions.
Mhm.
It means that management of change and asset integrity programs are followed even when the modification appears to be minor in nature. To me, process safety beyond compliance also means developing a culture where every employee, from the operator levels to the senior management, understands that the objective is preventing catastrophic events rather than just passing the inspections. It means that every abnormal situation has to be treated as a valuable piece of information. Process safety beyond compliance means that management is actively encouraging reporting of near misses.
Mhm.
They invest in the preventive maintenance program. They invest in asset integrity program. They review process changes very carefully and continuously learn from incidents across the industry and not just from its own plants. Because ultimately, process safety, as I said earlier, it is about protecting people, it is about protecting assets, it is about maintaining the business continuity. There are a lot of stakes involved, in any business, and it is about protecting the surroundings, the community. Yeah. So this is very important to understand that process safety beyond compliance is actually beyond compliance. It's not just about the standard systems, documents, etc.
Right. So, sir, I have a question like different from this one.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned that we should learn from our near misses or if any accident has occurred in the past, and we should also learn from other companies operating in the region or in the country. But we don't know, we don't have information. There is, once the accident happens, there is no investigative reporting on that, why it happened, when it happened, what were the reasons behind it, and it is not published in any open forum for people to understand or learn from it. How do you think about that?
Yeah. That is very important. It's an important point that you have pointed out. There are many incidents which are happening in the organization. Yeah. First of all, you should not ignore them. You should try and investigate every single near miss. Yeah. Because that comes to you free, before any major incident happens. So if you are investigating those, if you are able to take actions on those, you are actually preventing something which was there trying to be written on the wall. When it comes to the incidents beyond your organization, yeah, in the surroundings, so there are a lot of EHS forums which are there. So what we try to emphasize upon is we try to share those things, try to get those informations, we keep on discussing and try to understand that these could be something which is, if no major information is available, then probabilities are getting discussed. Even those are quite sufficient for you to take note of, try to see where we are falling wrong.
Mhm.
Otherwise also, if any accident of a nature has happened, you try to see what are the similar kind of operations at your end, and
Mhm.
if we can correlate those, and if we can try to what are all the possible hazards within those, and
Mhm.
try to see to it that we are able to investigate those hazards, the consequences of those hazards, and then also we are able to identify proper actions. So there can be many ways can be implemented.
Mhm.
I would say even if you don't go beyond now, in your industries or different manufacturing setups in your surroundings also, you'll find lot many things
Mhm.
from where you can have a learning and deploy the actions horizontally across in your organization.
Sure,
Yeah.
sir. Okay. So you have spent many years in EHS and process industries. How have you seen process in safety practices evolve over your career?
Okay. The major shift that I have seen is the shift from the approach that is reactive safety to the proactive risk management. This is one of the major shift that I have seen over a period. It also means actually the commitment of leadership has enhanced extensively. Earlier, if we see, many organizations were trying to look into the lost time injuries as as a criteria, but then those are important, cannot be ignored, but they don't actually reflect upon the process safety performance. Today, industries actually have become much more systematic. There is a greater emphasis on various elements of the process safety management systems. like HAZOP, management of change, asset integrity, incident investigation. And if we go a little down, the controls, the safety instrumented systems, learning from incidents that we talked about, learning from near misses that we talked about. These are all interrelated. And it is something which is this interrelation between each of the elements of the process safety management system that needs to be understood before any major accidents happen. Yeah. In fact, I would say now the industries, when they try to investigate the incidents, they also look into what are the interrelated elements which have got failed, so that those elements, individual elements, can be focused upon.
Right.
Also, over a period of time, the enablers have been like digital technologies, which have made a huge difference. Nowadays, real-time monitoring, predictive maintenance, digital permit systems, all these advanced analytics are helping organizations to actually detect abnormal situations much faster. Now you can see a lot of cameras which are provided, AI based cameras are there, those are provided. And anything, any person doing wrong or anything going wrong somewhere, you straight away come to know through those alarms before even you reach there. So you are able to take actions. There are some, even the barriers are built in, even with those detections, that those barriers are helping you to prevent any further unwanted actions. But however, one thing has not changed. Technology can support safety, technology can be enabler to safety, but leadership and culture, that is something which remains as one of the very important deciding factors. Every major incidents you investigate, it reminds us that technical failures are often accompanied by organizational or human failures. So these should never be ignored. Today, leadership, we can observe, is visibly felt on the field. They are very consistently reviewing critical risks. Deviations, unsafe conditions are challenged. Transparent reporting is encouraged, and accountability is being ensured at every level. So this is a major shift, and the evolution, this has been very impressive, but continuous learning, it remains at the forefront, because with every changing day, every changing period, you will find that the processes are becoming much more complex, and the process risks therefore continue to evolve as technologies and the operations become more complex. So this is what
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
Okay. So, sir, you mentioned about HAZOP. So, HAZOP is one of the most important tools in process safety. How can organizations ensure that HAZOP studies are not just completed on paper, but converted into real safety improvements?
Okay. HAZOP, which is one of the tools of the PHA, is a very important tool. It is, but it is just the beginning of the journey. Yeah. The value is not just in generating the recommendations. The real value is in implementing those recommendations and the timely implementation of those recommendations. So the first requirement for this HAZOP is having a multidisciplinary team which is experienced into operational aspects, which is experienced into maintenance, engineering, instrumentation, EHS professionals are there. So those teams, the multidisciplinary teams coming with, varying backgrounds and experiences, they, are able to give different perspectives and help identify risks that one functions alone may miss in the process. The second thing is that you should be establishing all sorts of prerequisites which are there, for the HAZOP studies. Many a times you don't have sufficient information, but you sit in those HAZOP studies. Yeah, and then there may come a gap in terms of adequate understanding of the hazards. The other part is the risks should be quantified. Many a times we have seen that the HAZOPs are conducted, but the quantification of risks do not happen. Those were the older days. But nowadays, it is very clear that the risks should be quantified and recommendations should be practical. Why the quantification I'm talking about is so that you are able to prioritize the implementation part of the risks. Like something which is at a very high level of the risks, the implementation of the solution has to be very faster. And in fact, it's a no-go to operate the processes at sometimes, So organizations may establish accordingly what are the actions needed for the high risks, medium risks, or low risk or whatever. But according to me, the high risks are really a no-go, and the medium and the low risks can still be implemented in the stipulated time that the organization will decide for them. But that is for sure that HAZOP studies will lose its interest if you are not implementing the recommendations. It will definitely remain as a piece of paper. The fourth point is every significant process modification, every incident should trigger a review. You do HAZOP by estimating something, by estimating the hazards. You have not operated the system, but you are assessing the risks. So there can be some deviations there, in terms of the understanding, or you're not having the 100% process knowledge around that, or something of that sort. So whenever such kind of things happen, you should ensure to review your processes. This will help you to understand whether your previous assumptions are still valid, and there you can make the corrections in your HAZOP. HAZOP is not a one-time activity, it's not a static document. And finally, I would say is that management must periodically review the status of the implemented recommendations, and so that they understand that they have actually reduced the intended risks. So that is what it is. HAZOP, I guess, is not, this report itself won't make a plant safer. It actually is the implementation of the recommendation that makes.
Right. Okay. So moving forward, you were also mentioning about risk assessment, right? So risk assessment is a critical part of process safety. What are some of the common mistakes organizations make while assessing process-related risks?
Okay. So common mistakes basically are, like treating risk assessments just as a documentation. Again, like in a series of lot of systems that you have to, tick to be implemented, sometimes the organizations get into, like, who do not take these seriously, they get into that risk assessment is just a documentation. No. This is an exercise which has a decision making tool. They should understanding this. The second common mistake sometimes is they underestimate the low frequency but high consequence events, or the potential events, because they haven't experienced them personally. And when it comes to those kind of things, again, you tend to ignore the actual risks. Yeah. According to me, few more mistakes are there, like not involving the frontline operators. This is very important when it comes to the risk assessments, because they understand the practical realities of the plant operations. Yeah. The best risk assessment comes with not just your engineering knowledge, but a combination of engineering knowledge and the operational experiences. Organizations tend to focus sometimes only on equipment failures while overlooking human factors. Now, human factors, maintenance activities, startup activities, shutdown activities, these are, and something which bring instability in your normal process setup. But then these are very important, cannot be ignored. The contractors working at the shop floor, they cannot be. The changes in the organizations, so these are something which cannot be just ignored. Yeah. So that is something you cannot overlook. So organizations, when overlooking these kind of factors, they do this mistake in risk assessment. Or one more thing is important is, as I said, nothing is static. So risks change over time, and hence if you are not updating your assessments, you are actually outdating your assessments. So this is something which is important to understand, that good risk assessments should influence engineering decisions, operating procedures, maintenance activities, plannings, emergency preparedness, and not just satisfy the documentation requirements.
Right, so coming to emergency preparedness, right? So emergency preparedness is extremely important in high risk industries. What does a strong industrial emergency response system look like in practice?
Okay, a good point, because emergency response, everything when you plan, still the incidents can happen, still the emergencies can happen. Yeah? So you have to be prepared for it. And a good emergency response system is one that people can execute very smoothly, very confidently under stress or the panic situations.
Mhm.
This is one of the very essential layers of your risk management program. Hmm? So, and how does it begin? It begins with the realistic risk scenarios. So you have got to understand from your process hazard analysis, your risk, quantitative risk assessments, that whatever the consequence modelings are happening, they have to get into those results, those outcomes of those risk assessments, those phas and the consequence modeling have to be taken into the consideration when you are preparing your emergency response plan. And this emergency response plan thus becomes a scenario based response plan, and not just a generic document to be fulfilled. So if it becomes scenario based, so that is very clear that what kind of consequences can happen. Now you should define your roles and responsibilities very clearly, because one team is something which would be fighting with the emergency. They would be responding at the incident place, but at the also it is very important that how the entire coordination takes place, how the communication takes place. So these roles and responsibilities should be very clearly defined. Every individual should know who will make decisions, who will communicate with the authorities, who will be the spokesperson for the company, who will coordinate for the evacuation, who will be involving into the headcounts and many other such things. Yeah.
Right.
And what is important is, again, when you make this document, you have to ensure that you conduct your mock drills regularly. Yeah. These are very essential, because you are able to simulate those scenarios even before they occur. Yeah. And then you try to see to it that how close you are, in attending those emergencies. Again, what is very important is your emergency equipment. They must always be remaining inspection ready. Your communication system should be working very smoothly, fine. Yeah. They should be reliable. And your hospitals, you should be aware of what your hospitals, the tie-up with the hospitals is, and what they have got to treat. Similarly, the mutual aid agreements, mutual aid arrangements with the nearby industry, you should even be aware of that, what they can spare for you during emergencies, what are the kind of resources they are having. So this is very important. And once you complete these exercises, the drills, the fire drills or the mock drills and all, you should be having a debriefing session. There has to be a structured review of what have been the gaps, and in the process you keep on taking corrective measures to improve your systems and processes. That's it.
Right. So safety training is often conducted regularly, but its effectiveness varies. How can organizations make safety training more practical, engaging, and useful for workers and supervisors?
Very good. Amberji, the training when we talk of, it's many a times we do a mistake that these are just the presentations, the contents is there, we keep on. So that is now a very primitive way, I would say. Yeah, because people remember the experiences far more than just those presentations. So now it is very important that how to make those training effective, and that is why you need to connect directly with the people. Connect directly with the people experiences. You see something wrong, some wrong behavior or some unsafe situations, conditions out there, and you see then that some people have ignored them or have taken the wrong step. You try to take those case studies, Get into those, try to teach the people around there, and make them realize that what they had missed. Real case studies and the demonstrations actually, including those field observations, uh, they are really much more getting the involvement of the people than just the presentations.
Mhm.
The supervisors and the managers, when they participate actively, they actually reinforce safe behaviors. Yeah. And when they reinforce safe behaviors on the shop floor every day, when they move into the field, indulge with the people, they are actually in the process, they are also, they are training. Because like adult, they work best when people understand why the procedure exists. It's not just what is there in the procedure, it is they need to understand that why of the procedure. Yeah. Few more things is like, when it comes to the training effectiveness, often we see that whatever we deliver, we try to take the assessment, the feedback, and close the chapter. Yeah. So more important is pre and post assessments to understand what knowledge has been gained by the trainee. Again, that is not sufficient, because this is also a short term thing. So over a period, you should evaluate how the behavior on that particular part for which he or she has received the training, how that behavior is of that employee. Over a period, you should try to look into the performance as well. So basically, to me, the objective is not just completing the training man hours, 2 man days, or 16 man hours per person or something, but it is more important is how you have been able to change the behavior and the performance of the individual.
Right. So, okay, so in process industries, production pressure and safety discipline can sometimes conflict. How should EHS leaders handle this balance?
First of all, I personally do not see that there is a conflict. Why so? Because what is, according to me, process safety as well as the production are the competing objectives. There will be pressure, production demands would be there, and sometimes you may tend to, compromise on the process safety part. But then that's a weak system. That's a weak commitment. Whenever there is a strong process safety commitment, usually you will see that there is a better reliability on the operations if you are not ignoring those facts. Yeah. You will also see that there is a higher equipment availability which is there. There are reduced breakdowns, because just simply take the asset integrity program. Now, this is one of the element of the process safety. Yeah. And these safety criticality in the assets, it gets identified through your risk assessments and various other factors. You try to identify what are your safety critical equipments. When it comes to those safety critical equipments, you develop a plan. Now, what is that for? That is to ensure you develop a plan and do the maintenance accordingly, the preventive maintenance programs, to ensure that those equipments are available all the time. If you don't do those will tend to fail and will result into the process safety incident, ultimately will result into the loss of time of the production. So this is important to understand that, and that is why the leadership role is very important. Leadership commitment is very important out here. And that is what CCPS also highlights, very repeatedly, that leadership and commitment is something from where this process safety management journey begins. Whenever the leaders, often you would see that they are sending mixed messages. Safety first, yeah, but then in behavior, sometimes you don't find those kind of things. So that definitely gives the mixed signal, creates a blurring image in the mind of the employee, and then they understand that what really matters, and they tend to do that way. Good leadership basically is something which establishes clear, operating limits. They establish clear, not only just the operating limits, but also empower the employees sufficiently and create a psychologically safe atmosphere. If I stop anything going wrong at somewhere, it is not a production loss. It is basically, it is something you are preventing a catastrophe of the future. So we should really understand that real loss is not that what we ignore today. It is something which we will face tomorrow if not taken care of. So that is what it is.
Sure, sir. Okay, so finally, sir, what is that one advice that you will give to EHS professionals who want to build strong careers in process safety and become future safety leaders?
Okay. So as I have also reflected in my talks, the first and foremost advice is to spend time at the shop floor. If you spend your time at the shop floor, you will not only, it is process safety is like, you don't just learn from the standards. You have to learn by experience. You have to learn by understanding the people's behavior. You have to learn by how the plants are operating, how the people are operating, how your processes are operating, and that is where you'll find the real issues also there. Yeah. The second is, you should be having a strong technical understanding. You should develop over a period of time, because learning process engineering, chemical reaction, if you are evaluating chemical reactions but you don't know how to estimate the reaction hazards, so then that is not good. So those technical fundamentals around the reaction hazards, instrumentation also you need to understand. You need to understand how the mechanical integrity or the asset integrity takes place, how the risk assessment techniques are there, how they have evolved. So those all technical understanding of those fundamentals will help you in better managing the risks. The third is never stop learning. Yeah. Because one is, you read the incident, investigation, whatever have happened, you read those, but you don't implement them. That is not a learning. You learn, you just went through that. But real learning is, you are trying to implement the corrective actions or whatever actions that you can take from those learnings. So that is what is a real learning actually. Yeah. And fourth is very important, is again building a good communication skills for yourself. Because see, a safety person, a professional who is in safety, has got to look into various aspects. He has to deal with his peers, he has to deal with the workers, he has to deal with the leadership. So anything around that, if you are good at communications and you are able to explain the crux of what you want to say, that brings a lot of trust. And once that is there, it will help organizations and the leadership to make better decisions.
Right.
Finally, when it comes to understanding, is you should remember that process safety is something which is again, protecting people. So your people, as people are the assets, those are the resource. You should not ignore them. You should make sure that every procedure, every inspection, every recommendations has to be having one common purpose, is that ensuring the safety of that person. He goes home safely, he meets his family at the end of the day back. And if you keep this purpose at the center of your career, I think the professional success will naturally follow.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable experience and insights with us. Your journey shows that process safety is not limited to procedures, audits, or compliance. It is built through strong governance, practical risk assessment, disciplined operation, and emergency preparedness. As industries become more complex, preventing major incidents will require organization to identify hazards early, manage deviation, involve people, and use technology responsibly. Thank you once again for joining the Hacklab Podcast Safety Leadership Series. We will be back soon with new conversations. Until then, take care and have a nice day. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you so very much for giving me an opportunity.
Thank you, sir.